So he kissed me, and then he says the safe word is rice. He's Asian too, so it's not like that. So he kisses me again, and then he put his hand on my neck, and I said rice, and he goes, "You can't use it like that. You're using it too liberally." Sisters, and yes, you misters, welcome to another episode of Relation Sis, where we talk about not only relationships with others, but more importantly, relationships with ourselves. This episode is the one with the actor. Content warning, we will be talking about sexual assault in this episode. So if that's too heavy a topic, no hard feelings, we'll catch you in the next episode. And I know what y'all are thinking. Wow, Kara, 2 back-to-back episodes with very dark, morose themes. I hear you. I promise things will get light and fun again. We are here to learn and share and heal. And for anyone who's been affected by the fires, my heart goes out to y'all. I hope that y'all are taking the time to do what you need in order to take care of yourselves during this difficult time. So today's special guest to co-host this light-hearted episode, y'all asked for it. You got it. Welcome back, acclaimed sex therapist, Andy.
Oh, God, not a sex therapist. Please don't ever ask me for any sexual advice. Also, thanks for bringing me back on such a lighthearted topic.
Yeah.
Love talking. No. Oh, I love the process of healing that we're about to engage in. So thank you for having me back.
I'm sure you're a little confused about why you were asked to come back for this specific topic, but for all the listeners at home, Andy did play an integral part in not in the he played an integral part in the healing. Is that a better way to
Thank
say
you.
it? He was a confidant during a difficult time for me. Andy, what's going on? I heard that you're a new homeowner?
Yes, we just bought a house somehow, and it's been a crazy process, but also so thankful. So many thoughts on home ownership, also home buying during this time, but just very lucky right now. And yeah, we're slowly making it into our home.
And I heard from the grapevine that you are now living in sin.
Well, I guess I've been living in sin, technically speaking, for at least a year now.
All right.
But the newest development is I actually told my mom, but
Oh yeah. How'd that go?
she's been very pushy on when we're going to get married, when we're going to stop living in sin.
Yeah.
And make it legitimate. Legitimize our sin.
Consummate? Legitimize,
I think.
Remember, no dating till after marriage.
Mm-hmm,
and no sex, for sure.
Never.
Yeah.
And it'd be preferred that the first time you meet your wife is after you've become married.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. When you lift the veil, that's when you meet your wife for the first time.
Yes.
And even after that, only hand holding.
Not to make this podcast about me, but we moved in pretty quickly together. But I guess you definitely have probably influenced me to be like, yeah, it's totally okay to move in that quickly. Good job, Kara.
Thanks.
Way to continue your corruption of my Christian soul.
Shh. Plus, you're not getting any younger. You're getting up there.
I am
barely older than me.
Yeah. But the 30s have been really good and have been really fun. So don't be scared of your 30s.
Okay. Plus, he's a homeowner now, which is another beast of its own.
Yeah. All I can say is I got very lucky, but also the market is insane. Absolutely insane.
So, Andy, this episode is, was it assault or was it bad sex? And we are hearkening back to 2020. Mm-hmm. This episode is the one with the actor. Let's get into it. It's going to be so lighthearted.
Yeah, so fun. So what I remember is it was 2020. I don't know if you told me about that you were going on this date, but I do remember that from this date on, I was pretty adamant about you, but just texting that, hey, I'm safe, we're good, because just hearing about the experience, I was very much, wow, yeah, dating can be really dangerous. I think it was pretty shortly after the date had happened.
Because I was calling you weekly at that point. Weekly update. This just
Yeah.
in. Oh, by the way, this happened over the weekend.
So yeah, so this was 2020 in COVID, but when was it?
I think the day it happened was Black Friday 2020. So the vaccine wasn't out yet, but
Mm,
people were getting cabin fever and people were just, okay, social distancing, obviously, but being quarantined 24/7 is just not sustainable. And so people were starting to, get back on the apps. I took a 11-month hiatus from dating. So this was literally the second date out the
mhm,
gate when this
mhm.
happened, which was unfortunate. So it was November 2020.
Yeah, so how did y'all meet?
We met on a really wholesome app called Grinder. You might have heard of it. I've said it once and I'll say it again. Nothing good comes out of Grinder, but Homegirl had to learn that lesson the hard way.
Mm,
So he was one of the messages of the barrage that I got,
mhm,
the influx.
mhm.
But the reason he stuck out was because he was a smooth talker. This is a common thread I've noticed. Like this catchphrase haunts me to this day. He called me a triple threat.
Oh,
Brains Beauty Funny because he saw on my profile that I was a comedian. So, triple threat, trifecta, those phrases haunt me to
uh-huh,
this day just
uh-huh.
because it's just one of those buzz phrases that has just been used by multiple people. So, I think they're playing a game. I don't know what game they're playing, but I see them.
Was there multiple people who would use those buzz phrases when talking to you?
Yeah, triple threat, trifecta, brains beauty, not brawn, brains
Uh-huh.
beauty, funny?
Uh. Was he
Brawn is
like
right?
yeah, yeah, wait, yeah. Was he the first one to use these phrases for you?
He might have been.
So he started it.
He started it. But I think men, when they're pursuing, just because there's so much competition, they
Mhm.
do what they can to separate themselves from the pack.
Yeah.
And once they have a success rate, then they're like, okay, this is a good play. Okay, I'll keep this dog eared in my mind so
Uh-huh.
that I
Yeah.
can lay it on thick.
Yeah. Yeah. I know this podcast isn't about the formulaic approach that I think a lot of men have with dating apps, but it is pretty wild how much of a quote unquote science there is around the approach
I'm sorry.
after.
Wait. You have people in your life that have studied the art of pursuit?
No, but they'll have a formula around it. There's a scheduling around it. So they'll be like, oh, this is a line. And then they'll do, some people I've heard like do analysis on their photos, which ones get the most engagement. And then for the very data driven people, they'll see, oh, what conversation flow seemed to result in the best success rates. And
I
also, it's
hate
just like,
this.
at first, it definitely does bother you because you're like, what can all human interactions just be this formula? And especially, I think, as we think about, I don't know, AI or something, as people develop these bots to engage in these conversations or these interactions, it does feel like you're cheapening the whole human experience of finding people or making connections. Sorry, I know this is kind of like completely off tangent, but have you ever met someone who has it down to like a science? Someone was like, yeah, so I text them and then for sure you go on a date like a week and a half after, which I'm like, okay, that's fine. You don't want to waste your time. But then they're like, and then I would have another data point off of that based off of the feelings. And then they'd be able to kind of analyze it like a data tree kind of deal.
Mhm. I don't know if I've heard to, like, that degree of a science.
Uh-huh,
I
uh-huh.
feel like for women, we've come up with, like, arbitrary rules, like the 3-date
Yeah.
rule or,
Uh,
like, for every response, you take twice amount of time. Dumb things
uh-huh.
like that. I don't subscribe
Yeah.
to that, but I
Uh-huh.
did have a friend who was one of my
Uh-huh.
layman man friends who did share that, like, we were hanging out, and he basically took me to his date spots.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And this is a friend, totally platonic,
Yeah.
but yeah, basically, he took me to 3 spots within the same area
Uh-huh.
that he took all his dates on. So for the girl, she feels, wow, he put so much thought into this. When in
Yeah.
actuality, it's no, this is just the third pit stop of a very long excursion.
Yeah. Which it's funny that because this is your first time meeting this person, so as a friend, you have the backstage of just, oh, this is kind of gross because, yeah, like it's already pre-planned and you do this with everyone. So it ruins the magic of it. But in the moment for that date, it is magical, right?
So I went to an escape room, and one
Uh-huh.
of the workers said that there was someone who booked the same escape room every week with a
Uh-huh.
different
Uh-huh.
girl. So he knows all the tricks. He knows how to solve the escape room. So the girl is just like, "Wow, this guy really knows what he's doing," when actually it's like,
Yeah.
no, he takes every girl in the same escape room so that he can know exactly what to do and
Uh-huh.
how to woo you. I don't know if that's the
Yeah.
way to woo a woman, but I thought that was a little cringe.
They always say, is it science is just magic explained?
Or is it the other way around?
Or is it the other way? Magic is just no. It's got to be science is magic explained, right? Because magic can't
Maybe?
be science explained. Because science is self-explanatory, or not self-explanatory, but reviewed and everything.
Mhm.
Man, we were just talking about escape rooms. I could see that being like so impressive. As someone who's generally so unhelpful in escape rooms, I'm like, oh, I should have done that.
I wonder if there's escape room client privilege where it's like,
Ooh, oh my gosh, it's a whole NDA.
yeah, you never break the code no matter how much of a garbage dipshit this man
Yeah,
is. We need the business. That's
yeah.
his business. He's a paying customer.
Oh my gosh. So you can really only hope that these people are good people. In a sense, there is a certain amount of creativity around it too. And you wish them the best. Hopefully they aren't a dipshit. That would really suck. Sorry. Going back. So you all met on Grinder. Where did you do your first date?
So it was COVID. So we were trying to social distance and be in the fresh air. So we decided to go on a hike.
And did you all meet at the trailhead?
No, so actually, we lived in the same area. So he picked me up. And I would strongly discourage against that. I don't know. I feel like times changed. I feel like back in our day, getting picked up at your front doorstep was not even not weird, but almost like
Hmm.
a precursor for like, no, a real man would pick you up at your doorstep. This was
Hmm. Hmm.
back in, the good old days of saying hi to the parents and having
Hmm.
flowers. But this was
Hmm.
also probably during a time where we weren't literally going on dates with strangers. And I don't know if it's because now we have convenience, just not to date myself, but my first year of college, we didn't have Uber. We had to take the bus or
Hmm.
actually literally call a cab.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
now we live in a much more convenient time where we have no excuse. But he picked me up from my place. So he had my physical address. So
Hmm.
looking back
Hmm.
at it, would not encourage it.
No, it's definitely something that's changed. Especially, I feel like we're much more aware of just the safety risk of it. And like you said, since we're talking with strangers, yeah. So he picked you up. What was the hike like?
The hike went off without a hitch for the most part. There was a particular moment where, you know, it was November, so it was kind of chilly, so I layered up, but it was getting
Uh-huh.
hot the higher you get up the hike. So I
Mhm.
took off my sweatshirt and I was wearing a sports bra, and he was like, "Okay, well, how can I resist?" So somewhere on the trailhead, he pulled me aside by the waist to give me a peck on the cheek, and I remember in my head, I was just like, I don't know you like that yet. Like, I'm
Uh-huh.
still feeling the vibe out. So it was a flag in my mind. It was, I didn't know if I like that. I mean,
So this happened at the beginning of no, you said this was like you were already further along on the trail, right? When this happened?
yeah,
Okay.
is that
Sorry.
important?
Yeah, well, because trailhead means like the beginning of the trail.
Oh, okay.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
hike, Andy. This is my
yeah.
first and last hike ever.
That's why I was like, why didn't you just like oh, but he drove you, so you couldn't. 'Cause there was like a part of me that's, oh, why didn't you just like, turn around? But you were like literally in the middle of
Well,
or at the end of the hike.
regardless,
Yeah.
even if it was at the I don't know. That's a very awkward
Yeah.
no. sorry, didn't like the way you held my waist. We're turning back, go down. Like, I
Yeah.
still have to go down the mountain with the
Right,
same
right.
man.
Right, right, right. Yeah, so that was a flag. Did it trigger any fight or fight response with that too? Where you're like,
No, it's sad to say, but experiences with chasers who get very handsy or touchy-feely very early
mhm,
on.
mhm,
In some ways, I had not grown accustomed to it, but was not surprised by it,
mhm,
and
mhm,
it wasn't necessarily unwelcome,
mhm, mhm,
but it was just the, oh, the me undressing and then him feeling a spark of, "Oh, well, how could I resist?"
mhm, mhm.
That gave me the ick.
Okay, so how goes like the rest of the hike? Any other things or?
No, I mean, I think he was trying to be, like, a little touchy, maybe grazing the arm, teasing the fingers, but I was just focused on getting through the hike.
Okay, so after you all get down, were you just like, all right, good hike,
Take me home.
yeah, take me home or
So he gave me a couple options. He said either we could grab takeout or he could cook dinner for me.
oh, okay. That's some bonus points, home cooked meals. What did you all have for dinner?
So we stopped by the local Asian grocery in our area. It was the only Asian grocery, so it was actually the grocery that I
Mhm.
would have gone to myself.
Uh-huh,
So
uh-huh.
we went to the grocery, picked up sushi dinner, like actual raw fish that you have to slice yourself, not pre-sliced, have to slice it yourself. So we went back to his place and he sliced up the sushi, might have grilled a couple pieces of meat, and
Uh,
essentially made like a sushi charcuterie board, or is that just called a sushi board? I don't
yeah,
know. I was a little impressed.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I mean, he got the knife skills. Did it feel like he'd done this before?
That's a great question. In line of, was this a prepackaged date? I have no
Mhm.
idea. I didn't know if this was like the move. I didn't think about it at the time.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah, it was kind of magical, huh?
Mhm. Then the magic was lost. So after dinner, he was like, I'm going to go upstairs to freshen up, take a shower. I'm sweaty from the hike. He was like, can you wash the dishes for me?
Okay, how did you feel about that?
I don't think it was an unfair ask. In practice, yes, he did just cook dinner for me. So to ask someone who you just cooked a meal for to do the dishes, like, fair is fair, but also this is a context of a date. Like,
Mhm,
this
mhm,
is this man on his best behavior. This
mhm,
is him
mhm,
putting his best foot forward. This is him trying to make his best impression.
mhm,
To me, kind of spelled foreboding for if we were to continue
mhm, mhm.
dating, what the expectation would be. And I swear to God, if anyone in the comments comes for me and their takeaway from this whole episode is like, bitch didn't want to fucking wash some dishes, even though some man just did a home cooked meal. Motherfucker, no. If that is your takeaway from the episode, y'all have fucked up priorities. But no, I think for me, it's like if I had guests in my home, and this is like friends,
Mhm,
SOs, whatever, if they're coming over in my home, like they're a
mhm.
guest, yeah, just leave it in the sink. Yeah, soak some water on the platter. I'll get to it later. I would never ask that of
Mhm,
someone.
mhm,
So
mhm,
I did it a little begrudgingly,
mhm.
but it was another flag. I don't know. How do you feel, Mr. Man?
Well, first of all, no. Yeah, no, I agree. I feel if this is a guest and first time in my house, like regardless of if I did the prep for dinner, I feel like you're a guest. You really should just be a guest and not be expected to do the dishes. Now, if the guest volunteered, even then I probably wouldn't, especially for the first date. Again, you really want to make a great impression, but yeah, that's feels like a little weird ask, but I know it raised a flag for you. Like, what was kind of going through your head with that ask?
Another ick moment. Again, this is first impression. This is him on
Hmm.
his best behavior. If he doesn't have the wherewithal, if he doesn't have the foresight to like protocol and what it means to host a guest, what it
Hmm.
means to have a first date over.
Yeah.
Like, at best, incompatibility. At
Mhm.
worst, make me a sandwich, bitch.
Yeah, there is that kind of undertone.
Mm.
Did it feel like it was like "Oh, this is what is expected out of a woman"?
It felt a little like that. "Hey, honey, I'm gonna go up, take a shower. Can you do the dishes, rub my
Uh-huh.
feet?" He cooked me dinner. But also, I talk a lot about this in other episodes, filling in the blanks for someone as opposed to
Mhm.
letting them fill in their own blanks, meaning making assumptions about a person. And
Mhm.
so this guy identified as queer. And
Mhm.
so in my head, queer embodies a certain level of progressiveness,
Mhm.
liberal. So I think in my mind, when I thought, okay, he's queer, so obviously equality of the sexes,
Mhm.
what have
Mhm.
you.
Mhm.
This was kind of like a pump the brake. Like, not everyone's cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, okay. So you do the dishes and
So dishes are done shittily. Like, you wanted me to scrub the skillet. I don't know anything about how to
Uh-huh.
scrub a pan. I'm a
Uh-huh.
little better about it now, but he didn't give me like barkeeper's friend, nothing. It was literally just a yellow sponge to get into the fucking burnt parts of a pan. So,
Yes. See, that's another part of it that, yes, like washing dishes, you can see it as, oh, that's really simple and whatnot. And I guess in a sense, oh, equal division of work. He prepares the meal. Oh, then whoever else will do the dishes. But I think also the fact that this is your first time in the house and, does he explain like where the things are, and
how he
like
likes
you
it
said,
done.
how he likes it done. And this is he's clearly a chef, so he probably has a certain technique on how he wants to take care of things too, which I do not trying to make a mountain out of a molehill here, but it is like a very awkward situation to put someone in, I feel, because you're just like, what are the expectations here with this task? It could be something like, oh, I just want things to be equal. But the other part of it is also you clearly care a lot about your cooking stuff. But yeah, I definitely feel like it's a very awkward ask.
Yeah. So he comes out
Hmm.
freshly faced, dewy eyed. I might be making this up. Don't quote me on this, but he might have commented on how the wash was done, like how I did, or he might as well have. I don't know. Are you sure this pan is done? Or whatever. I pointed out the
Oh.
fact that I'm not the best dishwasher, whatever.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So now that
Oh,
he
so
is
I thought you were talking about he was like, oh, I'm freshly showered, so the wash of him is done. But after he's done showering, he came and commented on your dishwashing that he asked you to do.
slight jab, slight teeth, I don't know. A lot of this night, fuzzy, blocked out. So we graduate to the bedroom.
Okay, okay.
So he kissed me, and then he says, the safe word is rice.
Okay, okay.
He's Asian too, so it's not like that. But, sir, we just kissed. So him giving a precursor from here's the safe word, this could go one of two ways.
Yeah.
Either, wow, this person's really great about boundary setting and
Mhm,
wanting to make someone feel comfortable. So at any
mhm,
point they can opt out. But on the other hand, it's like, where is this night going? Like, how
mhm.
far do you think we're getting, sir? So mostly I was incredulous at the fact that the safe word was rice. I was like, you know, set the racial undertones aside, just not a very
Uh-huh.
sexy word whatsoever. So I was like,
Uh-huh.
okay. So he kisses me again,
Mhm,
and then he put his hand on my neck, and I said, rice,
mhm.
and he goes, you can't use it like that. You're using it too liberally.
Motherfucker, what?
And that to me was just like total tonal shift of, so what you're telling me is no doesn't mean no. And I just want people to understand in that moment, it's like
Mhm,
whole different lens. Like I'm looking at this room in a completely different way in terms of, okay, I'm in this man's house. We are home alone. I just met this person. I know nothing about what he's like. You don't know people. until they
Yeah.
don't get what they want. So I'm already in fight or flight mode. The anxiety is seeping in. You can't use it like that. So he's putting his hands on my neck, like in a choke, or he's tugging my hair. So, Rice, stop.
Mhm.
Mm.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I could just tell that he was getting increasingly frustrated. Like I was ruining his flow. So I have no interest in doing anything with this man. But again, I am in an enclosed space in a private residence. There is no
Mhm.
witnesses, whatever. So I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, I went into survival mode. Okay, I just need to get through this. So I have no desire to have skin to skin contact with him.
Mhm.
So at this point, I am like, so he's lying on the bed and I'm on top of him, but I'm essentially doing a plank off of him. I'm doing like a push up essentially off of him because I have that is how
Yeah.
and then he goes, "Be a woman and cuddle me."
Oh, so it colors everything, huh? That comment right there colors so much in.
Yeah. So I I blocked out a lot. Like I can't even tell you what happened, what went down, like how
Mhm.
far. I don't remember any of that. I was in survival mode.
Mhm.
You fight, flight, or freeze, and I think I was kind of in
Mhm.
freeze. And when I get overwhelmed, when I get anxious, I get very stoic. And so he kept teasing me. He was like, "Wow, you're really." He kept calling me poker face. Hard to read because I was in survival mode. I was just like, "Don't touch me."
Yeah. So how fast were you trying to get out of there?
I want people to understand how scary it can feel in that moment of, again, you don't know people till they don't get
Mhm.
what they want. Let's say I even literally just bolted for the door. I don't
Mhm.
know this man. I don't know if this man is gonna come charging down the stairwell.
Mhm.
So in that situation, it was literally just, okay, I need to just do everything I can to just keep the peace so that I can
Mhm.
leave
Yeah, yeah,
this place in one piece.
yeah.
I remember the room, there was a draft, so it was just chilly enough that I
Mhm.
wanted something to cover me,
Mhm.
but all the clothes I brought were like fluffy sweaters. So I wanted an in between. I wanted something comfy. So he gave me one of his shirts to wear.
Okay.
And it was like, I shit you not, it was his youth camp shirt from 7th grade.
Okay.
So some sentimental value there.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And he goes, "Wow, that shirt looks really cute on you. You should have it."
Okay. And were you so flattered by that? What was going through your mind with that? Or
I was like, "You're in danger, girl. You don't give something of sentimental value to someone
uh-huh.
that you don't intend on seeing again."
Yes.
So to
Yeah.
me, it felt like he was marking his territory, like it
Hmm.
was collateral. Like, as I had this shirt of his, he will always have an excuse to get back in touch with me.
Yeah, it's weird formulas, huh? So for someone who started off trying to establish boundaries, it felt like he was like constantly pushing boundaries, pushing demands. Was he pushy in other ways?
Yeah, so we were done. I don't know, once he was done choking and yanking the hair and whatnot, I think I stopped planking off him and we were just laying on the bed together. But, I had already made up in my mind. I was like, I just need
Uh-huh.
to get out of here and just never return, never see this guy again. But he was really adamant about, so when can I see you next? Like,
Mm.
hey, you should sleep over and we
Mhm,
can go on
mhm.
a beach picnic tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, no, I need to be back in my bed tonight. So he's like, okay, well, you can sleep at your place and I'll pick you up first thing tomorrow morning. And I was like, I need to see what I'm going to be up to. And he was like, okay, so within the next 3 days,
Uh-huh.
when are you free?
Yeah, yeah.
And he was not letting up. He wasn't taking a hint. He
Mhm,
was like,
mhm.
no. He had his calendar open. He was like, when am I scheduling you for?
Yeah,
What are
yeah.
you up to? Why don't you want to
Uh-huh,
hang out?
uh-huh.
Which added a layer of a level of fear of just when someone's pressing you upon something and they are
Yeah,
not going to leave until you give them a definitive answer. Not even a
yeah,
definitive answer,
yeah.
Because no is a complete sentence.
Yes.
So him relenting until I gave him an answer that he wanted.
So do you remember what you said to him with that?
I might have been like, okay, yeah, sure, a beach picnic tomorrow sounds fun.
Uh-huh. Did it feel like with everything that happened, he probably wasn't a great listener, but did it even feel like he picked up on that cue of just how reluctant you were for this beach picnic?
I don't think homeboy cared. If someone can mentally bypass that you're using a safe word and in his head, the safe word is not actually what the safe word is. Like,
Yeah.
this is literally a word that's used to safeguard. And for him
Mhm.
to just squash that and be like, no, you can't use it like that. No, when getting frustrated when someone's saying no or stop. And I think that was the crux of the issue of like, okay, like if this is true, what else can be true? If no doesn't mean no,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're actively violating my
Mhm.
boundaries,
Mhm.
then no holds barred.
Yeah.
Like, where's the limit? The limit does not exist.
Sorry, I hate how that because of Mean Girls, I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
it always makes
no,
me
I know. I was
this is
like,
very yeah.
yeah, a moment of
Very dark.
brevity, a moment of levity.
Yeah, man. At what point do you leave his place? Because you didn't stay the night there, right?
I didn't stay the night. Again, I'm at his residence. He was my ride.
Right.
He still needs to take me back home.
Mm.
So I'm like, can I go freshen up? Can I go change? He's like, yeah, sure. So I just want to set the scene of like, okay, I'm in his bathroom and I still have this shirt that I need to get rid of. And there's this man who's just outside the door,
Mhm.
checking in, tapping on the door. Hey, you in there? Hey, what's going on? Just
What?
that feeling of, okay, I don't know this man.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's like. If I wanted to barrel down the stairwell, I don't know how that would go. I was scared, but it was
Mhm.
just like
Mhm.
okay, I've already made up my mind. I need to
Mhm.
plan my escape. But
Yeah.
there's this man just outside the door. Hey, ready to go whenever you are. Like, hey, you in there? Hey, you're taking a while, just
Yeah.
that. So I was just like, okay, I have the shirt. I have no desire to see this man again. What the fuck am I
Uh-huh.
going to do?
Yeah.
I can't just exit the bathroom and be like, "Hey, here's your shirt back. I actually have no interest in ever seeing you again." Like, I don't know if that's the moment I'm gonna die. So, I stuffed it underneath the cupboard behind the toilet paper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Smart.
So then, exit the bathroom, "Hey, everything okay? You were in there for a minute." "Yeah." Poker face, stoic as ever. Like,
Mhm.
"Get me out, get me out, get me out." So he takes me home and then walks me to my front door. Hey, had a really great time. Looking forward to our beach picnic. Still
Mhm.
going in to kiss my cold, clammy lips.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm like, thanks. And then
Mm.
I went up to my apartment.
Once you get to the apartment, you're in a safe space, finally. What is going through your mind? Like, how do you even start to process that?
So I literally walked straight into my room. I didn't say hi to my roommate, and my roommate already knew something was up. Well, after this experience, he was protective like you.
Mhm.
Like, he was like,
Mhm.
"Okay, you left for your hike at 1. You're supposed to be back by 4." "Bitch,
Mhm.
it's 10 p.m." So he knew. He knew something went down. But I didn't say a word. I just went into my room and
Mhm.
just went to take a shower because I just
Mhm.
felt so gross. So, after I showered, I immediately hopped on a Zoom call with my summer camp friends. So, during COVID, do you remember Among Us?
Yeah, yeah.
So, that was when Among Us was, like, peak popularity.
Mhm.
So we had what we called emergency meetings. So that's
Oh,
what we
yes.
did in Among Us.
Uh,
To my friends, that's my SOS call. That's my siren. So even when I was still at the guy's place, I texted the summer camp friends and I was like, emergency meeting in 30 minutes. So we hop on a Zoom call
mhm.
and they're like, oh yeah, how'd your date go? And I was like, so I was assaulted. So I shared with them what had happened. My friend immediately Venmoed me money and he was like, buy takeout, buy yourself something nice. So immediately when I got into my apartment, he had texted me.
Mhm.
So he says, I like you. Hope you had a good night. Can't really read you, poker face. But yeah, can't wait to see you tomorrow. And I didn't have the energy, the capacity to even begin to want to reply to that.
Mm-hmm.
So my friends on the Zoom call, they drafted the text for me
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
send to him of kindly fuck off.
Yeah.
So I have good friends.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So he sent me that text message before he even got home. Might still be actively texting it from my driveway. Then an hour later, we're still on this Zoom call.
Mm-hmm.
He calls me. I'm like, he's fucking calling me. Like, what the fuck do I do? Like, just send it to voicemail. Just leave it alone. I was like, okay. So I don't pick up. He immediately texts me and he goes, no response? Okay. Guess I screwed up real bad today. I'm assuming you're going to ghost tomorrow? Wish you were here right now to cuddle. Wanted to say goodnight to you, but I guess you were busy.
It's crazy because it's like, could you have just already been asleep at that point too?
Yeah, sure. I could have been doing anything,
Yeah.
but even the text itself, there was a level of manipulation there.
Yeah.
Rewriting the narrative of, wow, guess I screwed up. Guess you're going to
Woe is
ghost
me.
tomorrow. So
Yeah.
no accountability
Yeah.
about his role in any of this.
And also that your world now revolves around him. That because you're not answering, that even if it was a good date and you didn't answer, for him to be like, oh,
Ghost
like
me.
you're gonna ghost me. It's a weird mix of that anxiousness, but then that manipulation around his anxiousness is just it's crazy.
It is
Of
crazy.
It's just like, wow, you live in your own world and everyone is just like a puppet that is revolving
Yeah.
around you.
It's his world and we're just living in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't pick up your call on the first ring.
Yeah. So you don't pick up, he immediately starts to spiral. Did he try and show up the next day? Did you have any other contact with him after he's like, oh, I guess you're going to ghost me?
So I don't reply until the next day
Oh, you do reply.
because my friends drafted a text for me.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I replied the next day,
Hmm.
hey, I'm going to pass on the picnic. I was really uncomfortable with some of the advances you made yesterday. You crossed a number of lines and disrespected my boundaries and me as a person. I used the safe word and said stop several times, and you completely brushed it off. It was disappointing and frankly made me feel unsafe. Please don't contact me again. P.S. Your shirt is behind the toilet paper. And I think this is one of my biggest regrets. I ended the text with wishing you all the best.
I was going to say, I was like, this is so kind for everything that happened. I would have not even told him about the shirt and hopefully let it mold in the back.
No, because then he has reason to contact me again.
I guess.
That was the whole thing.
Yeah. True, you're right. I would have been like, I left your shirt somewhere in your house.
Good luck finding it.
Good luck finding it. I hope it tortures you.
So I sent him that text and I immediately unfollowed him on Instagram and removed him from my followers. He replies, had a feeling that was the case. I'm sorry I made you uncomfortable. That certainly wasn't the intention. So you just admitted, oh yeah, I did do that. You did use the safe word and said stop. I did violate those boundaries.
Thanks for the accountability, I guess.
Yeah, thought that was the case.
A lot of awareness after the fact, I guess, when consequences are
or during and just flagrant disregard.
So was that the last you heard from him?
No. Immediately after, he refollows me on Instagram.
Okay.
So Mr. No doesn't mean no. When I said, please don't contact me again, sees that I removed him from my followers, charges right past that no, and refollows me again like a fucking psycho.
Yeah. So he didn't really learn anything.
No.
Okay, so do you block him again?
So at that point, I had to block him on Instagram because it was
Mhm.
like, if I removed him, he's gonna refollow.
No
That's just
boundaries are safe.
that's just what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you think about reporting him at that point?
No. I watch a lot of SVU, and I know how this rodeo goes. Let's say I reported him and they put me on the stand, they would lay into me.
Mhm.
"Did you say no? Did you say stop? Why did you let him take you home?
Mhm.
Why didn't you just call your own car?"
Mhm.
All the victim blaming questions that are questions that we ask ourselves,
Mhm.
feeling like it was our fault. Did we do enough? But I just want people to understand when push comes to shove and you're put in a situation where your safety is at risk, your survival is literally at risk.
Mhm.
You're going to do what you're going to do in order to keep the peace because you don't know someone till they don't get what they want.
Mhm.
When someone outright tells you no doesn't mean no, then okay, well, if that's true, then what else is true? What else are you capable of? Then you go down a rabbit hole where you start splitting hairs and start dissecting the definition of what SA is,
Mhm.
what
Mhm.
qualifies assault, you know? Okay,
Mhm.
well, if you didn't go all the way, does that count? Or
Mhm.
at what point is
Mhm.
it let's say it was just groping. Let's say it was just touching. Is that enough? Because I blocked it out. I honestly can't tell you, like, how far
Mhm.
it went.
Mhm.
All I know is that when I said no, when I said stop, it didn't.
Yeah, I know that you're kinda talking about the legal definition of assault too, and pulling in law enforcement and the justice system too, but for yourself, I feel it is important to note that assault for you could also just be him grabbing you earlier in that hike too, right? Like, that violation of your boundaries is, I feel like, the number one step in all of this. And I think that regardless of what ended up happening later on in night, even if you can't remember it, it's just like we we really should, I think, as just people, just fucking respect boundaries, respect no's and everything. With that, do you feel like personally you've had to like reevaluate because of this experience? Do you feel like you're now playing detective for yourself about, oh, so what boundaries did I actually set it? Did you ever have to go through this and like doubt your own version of the story or your experience with it?
Look at you playing detective.
Sorry, I think you might have already like done this, but like I think I was also just like, oh yeah, there's the legal side of it, but also the personal side of it.
I think there's a part of me where we're harder on ourselves, and to be in the position of the victim, there is that self-blame.
Hmm.
Like, if I was walking down a street and some stranger grabbed my friend's ass, I'd be like, "Fuck you, that's assault." But then to be in the position of the victim, it's like, we were on a date. We were going on a hike. It's not unheard of for
Hmm.
someone to try and make a move. And again, the hike where he pulled me aside, grabbed me by the waist, and gave me a peck
Hmm.
on the cheek, was it welcome, unwelcome? It was a neutral.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
It was just like, I don't know you like that. Am I gonna
Yeah,
call LAPD on his ass?
yeah, yeah, yeah. The part of that too is like you're on a date, you're looking for connection and love. I think we touched on this before too in that last episode. It's, is it your job to be policing every little action? Like, you kind of do have to, but I think you commented on it earlier when I asked, do you think you would have just turned around and walked away? But I think it just kind of sucks because you're like, I'm here to make that connection. And yeah, I have these boundaries, but to always be policing what they're doing and the intentions and detectiving everything when you're just like, I just want to have a fun date. That's also really hard. And the conversation shouldn't be you policing it. It should really be, why aren't people better at respecting boundaries? Right?
Mhm.
Or like, you have to do all the work. And that's the problem with, I think, when you're a victim, is the victim has to do all the work. They have to provide the evidence. And not to talk too much about the legal system, it works. There's an importance to it, but that's a lot of burden. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of re-traumatizing the victim to know that
Yeah. In this conversation of, oh yeah, why didn't you report him? Why did you let these things happen? We're pretty much saying, and not to say that sexual assault doesn't happen to men, but I guess I should just label it as, why are we asking the victim group to always be like ADT, locked down 24/7, constantly in a safe zone,
And
and then the
also
other,
having to be the ones that have to prepare the defense.
yeah, you have to be gathering the evidence, recording everything, isn't that a crazy thing to ask part of the population? And then the other part just goes, fuck it. I have the awareness. I thought that was the case, but did it actually matter to me in the moment where I'm making someone feel uncomfortable or unsafe or in danger? Does it actually matter to me?
That was a very astute observation, and that is why Andy is an acclaimed sex therapist. I replay the line of questioning in my mind a lot of like, why did you get back in the car? I think this is what a lot of people, but specifically women, feel like they have to do in order to just survive. The moment we got out the house, if I just bolted for it, I don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we can talk about all that, but it's just like people are scary. People can be really scary, but we have to find ways to coexist. And yeah, I think it's crazy. So, so you didn't report him. Did you hear anything from him about you? Do you think he told anyone about you?
So we talked to his therapist about me.
Did he reach out to you and tell you that he told his therapist about you?
No, so we were not in contact after this happened. On
Okay.
our date, he mentioned that he had talked to his therapist about me, that he was
Okay.
preparing for this date,
Okay.
which in line with the buzz phrase triple threat,
Uh-huh.
like this is also another pattern that I've noticed. Whenever a guy tells you, "Hey, I told my mom about you," or "I
Uh-huh.
told my therapist about you," just
Uh-huh.
I'm not saying it's a red flag, but it's a flag. Just hard stop. It's a flag.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Just keep that in your mind.
Okay. Okay.
Because especially when it's very early on or you haven't even met the person yet, I get it. Some people are just close to their mom and they tell their mom everything. It just it's just a pattern I've noticed.
So he talked to his therapist about you. How do you feel about that?
I think it just brings in the question, A, what's the story he's telling himself about what happened? And B, what's the story he's telling his therapist?
Mm-hmm.
I was watching this TikTok. Someone was like, "Do you ever wonder about the villain in your story, what they're telling their therapist? Are they telling the therapist what actually happened, the true story? Are they telling them like their side of events or some embellished tale, like
Uh-huh.
where they're the hero or that they're on the right side of justice?"
Yeah, definitely.
On his end, he replied to my text message like, "Oh yeah, I thought that was the case." So that's an admission.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I don't know of guilt, but an admission of their role in this.
Yeah, yeah.
But like for people that are willfully terrible, when they talk to their therapist, what are they telling them? Is the story like, "Yeah, sorry, this girl just couldn't match my freak.
Mhm.
Sorry, this girl was just fragile, sensitive, got scared off by how hard I loved.
There's also a part of me that's like, shouldn't the therapist be like,
Did you rape this poor girl?"
yeah. I feel like my therapists have always just been like, okay, let's stop focusing on the other person and let's focus on you. And I feel like it's always been a very, you can't control how other people feel, but you can control how you respond kind of deal. So I feel like if he's actually going to therapy and hopefully the therapist is good, it would hopefully invite him into these processes of actually looking at himself in a more critical way. Because I feel like a lot of my therapy is very much, hey, you should look at yourself in all this. So that's just such a shitty thing to have gone through. And I know we've already kind of touched about how the victims are never at fault in this, but in the vein of trying to be proactive for people who are just starting to date, what are things that people can be looking out for or ways people can be protecting themselves from people who are like the actor?
Sign number 1 would be someone who tests your boundaries. They do it in a way where not only are they testing your boundaries, but they implicate you. they make it your fault.
Mhm.
Like when we were going on that hike, he sees my sweat glistening midriff and he was like, "How can I resist?" Grabs me by the waist. "Oh, sorry, it's your fault. I can't keep my hands off of you." Which, again, the line between innocent and insidious, it can be a fine line. It
Yeah.
depends on context. Someone who grabs you by the waist, who you're really feeling the vibe with, that can be appropriate.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
for someone, if you're just getting to know a person and you're still making heads or tails about how you feel about this person, it can feel unwelcome.
Yeah, I'm really glad you touched on that because I think there are definitely people who see that as being really romantic, but you're saying it's not a catch-all move where you can do that with everyone, everyone's gonna feel the same way. You really have to be strong about, "Hey, this makes me uncomfortable," and would you recommend people verbalize that early, or how should they approach that situation?
It's so tethered to the feeling of not feeling safe to express how they truly feel. Sign number 2 is when someone tells you that no doesn't mean no. Andy, does no always mean no?
Yes, no always means no.
Does it though?
Well, now that you put it in that tone, no.
Yeah, I was watching this comedian where it's no doesn't always mean no. No, stop. That's different. There are moments where it's someone telling like, no, stop, but you're teasing.
Mm,
But the ways that someone can subconsciously communicate that they're not taking your no seriously,
mhm,
like when you set a boundary and they still relent and persist on doing the behavior
mhm,
that you already told them is unwelcome,
mm,
that's a red flag. That's a
mhm.
sign of abuse.
I like to think of it like you can be playful about it, but also just checking in. But if someone is like, "No," then they have every intention of dropping it without making you feel guilty. I think
Right.
that's a big part of it too, because I think
Mhm.
sometimes people like actor, he's like, "Oh, you're ruining my vibe." So he's making you feel guilty for saying no. Like, it should really just be someone who respects your no and also doesn't make you feel guilty for saying no.
Sign number 3, demanding your schedule, feeling entitled to your time. Again, you could look at this in 2 different ways. Hey, I would love to know when the next time I'm gonna see someone is.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm,
if you have a great first date and they're super jazzed and y'all are excited and y'all are feeling the vibe, it's like, "Hey, like, I'm free Wednesday. Would you wanna grab coffee?" Great, I would love to know when I see my friends next. Let's
mhm,
schedule the next one.
mhm, mhm,
But in the context of what happened with the actor,
mhm,
he was not going to leave the conversation, he was not gonna leave the date until
mhm,
a date was solidified, even
mhm,
if I was putting out the vibe of, "I need to see what I'm up to, I'm really busy right now, I'm not sure
mhm.
how I'm feeling in this moment."
Yeah.
Him having his calendar open, being like, "No, let's nail this down.
Mhm.
When am I going to see you again?"
Yes. Like, danger, danger.
And then in the same vein of control, sign number 4, when someone gives you something of sentimental value to ensure that they'll see you again. So this goes just beyond, "Oh, I left my toothbrush at his place." You can replace a toothbrush. Someone gives you an item as collateral,
Mhm,
it's like, "Hey, you know what? Hey, hold on to this for me." If
mhm,
it's a bracelet, if it's a sentimental shirt, it's even if this goes haywire, even if this is dunzo, they're still gonna have that on you to make sure
mhm.
that they will see you again. There is no term for this. I don't know if I'm gonna coin it as marking their territory.
Yeah, or, like, manipulation.
Yeah, no, it is. Sign number 5 is persistence after you've told them that they're not welcome. So, me telling him, "Please don't talk to me again," and then
Mhm,
him immediately following me again on Instagram,
mm,
that's blatant, "Okay, you're just bulldozing right through my boundaries." And then sign number 6, people are telling you exactly who they are if you would just listen. In hindsight, again, this was a first date, but during this date, he was talking to me about his tumultuous relationships, past exes, toxic relationships, or even his bad relationship with his dad,
mhm,
or why he was going to therapy for anger management. People are telling you who they are if
mhm,
you would
mhm,
just listen. As someone shares about themselves, start asking yourself those questions of, okay, not to say that people don't have a past, everyone has a past,
mhm,
but if they are laying it on thick about all the things that they're dealing with that are on the table, ask yourself, is this something that within the span of time could realistically have been worked on? Not to say we're demonizing people
Mhm.
for having for having baggage, but are they doing the work?
So, along the same vein, as we gave a helpful kind of warning signs of how do you spot someone like the actor, what are more precautionary things that people can be doing in order to be better protected?
It's a good question. I remember one time I confided in someone and shared about my assault,
Mhm.
and their question to me immediately after was, "So what have we learned from this?" And it was like, "Fuck you."
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Not the response. So,
Okay, I'm glad that there's a part of me was like, was that how you wanted people to respond to that?
no, obviously not, but there are definitely things that we can do.
Mhm,
We can't control other people's actions, but there are things that we can do on our end in order to protect ourselves. 2025 is a different time. I don't know. Stranger danger was always apparent,
mhm,
because fucking kidnapping since forever and ever.
mhm,
But I feel like especially now with social media, internet, things have changed as well. The precautions that someone can take to protect themselves. Have your own ride, prepare your
mhm,
own transportation. In most metropolitan areas and even a lot of suburbs, Uber is a thing. Have your own transportation. If you don't drive, call an Uber, have a friend give you a ride. You need to have an escape route. At any point, you need to know that you're going to be able to make it home safely, even if things go haywire. I personally would never let someone pick me up again, especially at my personal residence, but in general, I would never want to be transported to a place where I'm not familiar with the area, not knowing how I would find myself back home. Share your location, whether it be with your friends, with a family member. Someone needs to know where you're going to be at all times. Let them know, hey, I'm going at this time. And if you don't hear back from me at this time, send me a text, give me a call. Let's say you're meeting up with someone in a public space, but then the night graduates to y'all taking an Uber back to their place, for example. If you don't have your location shared, I've made sure to check where the Uber is turning on the street so I can look at the street sign. And
mhm,
I literally make a note of the building number
mhm,
and then entering the apartment, looking at the unit number. I had a designated friend
mhm.
where I would just send him random addresses. Yeah, so we just have a text thread of just addresses, and he would just thumbs up to it. So he would just know. Just you gotta do what you need to do to protect yourself.
Mhm, mhm,
Having a friend call to check in, even if it's mid-date. Have friends like Andy where if they don't hear from you by a certain time, have them text and make sure that you got home,
mhm.
which you could all bypass if you just shared your location. Just share your location. Just do it with someone.
With trusted people, with trusted people.
Yes, with
Mhm,
trusted people. Because I didn't share my location with anyone within the past couple of years, even, like,
mhm,
when you were concerned about me, that was not
mhm.
when people were sharing their location willy-nilly, but
Yeah.
now it seems pretty commonplace. Wow, technology.
Mhm, mhm,
If you're at a bar or even if you're at someone's place, watch your drink get made with abundance of caution, have them take the first sip, and I
mhm,
know that sounds paranoid, but I would rather look overtly cautious than to put myself in a dangerous situation.
mhm.
For anyone who's an ally or has someone in their life that they love and want to protect, they should understand.
Yeah, I've gone on like a second date and we've walked somewhere and they lived close by, so I walked them partially there just to make sure they were safe, but then they communicated, "Hey, I don't want you knowing where I live." And I was
Mhm.
like, "Yeah, bet. Like, I'm a crazy, you don't know who I am really. That's totally cool. I totally understand." I feel like anyone who is worth their salt and is a good person will understand, like, being overly cautious. It's not going to ruin the magic.
I
Mhm,
remember it was, like, maybe, like, 3rd date in, I asked
mhm,
38-year-old, I was like,
mhm.
"If I asked you to take the first sip at your place, would you be offended?" He was like, "Little bit at this point," but I'm like, "I don't
You
what's the
know,
harm?
yeah, it's like,
Drink your juice, Shelby."
I know. You're not accusing them of anything crazy. It's just, "Hey, I just wanna be safe?" And if they refuse, that feels more guilty than anything, right? You're like, "Well, why
Right,
is it such a big deal?" It's not a big deal.
right.
Like, I
You
get
know
it.
there's nothing in the drink,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and you get to taste your drink. What's wrong with that? Crazy.
Yeah,
People crazy.
people crazy.
Anyways, Those are really good precautions, definitely, to take. The other thing too then is, what did recovery for you look like after the incident?
I think recovery looks different to different people.
Mm-hmm.
For people who haven't been on that side of the coin, they don't necessarily know what it's like to just constantly feel the need to watch their back, or places
Mm-hmm.
that were once safe to them no longer feeling safe. With the actor, he picked me up for my personal address,
Mm-hmm.
so he knows where I live. So there's always that fear of, is he just going to show up unannounced one day? Provided he didn't have access inside the building or he didn't know my unit number. But even just like
Mm-hmm.
him knowing like where he could potentially run into me or find me, you know, it was scary.
Mm-hmm.
When people go through something traumatic like going through an assault, the clothes, the outfits that we wore that day, they're tainted with the memory. I remember there was a jacket that was covered in fluid, and
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't bring myself to wash it. I couldn't bring myself to do anything, so it hung in the back of my closet for a
Mm-hmm.
really long time before I was
Mm-hmm.
able to put it into wash and rewear it with another outfit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's also just having to make new memories. Like, I had to reclaim that hiking trail and make new
Mm-hmm.
memories with it,
Mm-hmm.
going with my friends so I could take back the moment and
Mm-hmm.
have a
Mm-hmm.
positive association with the place.
Yeah.
But also the grocery store. It was the only Asian grocery store within our area. So
Mm-hmm.
then whenever I went to that grocery store, I would always make sure that I had a friend on the line so I could talk to on the phone in case that anything were to happen. And time is a natural healer,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not linear.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be moments where you find yourselves back in that place.
Mm-hmm.
There will be days where you feel like you're okay, and then you'll think back to it.
Mm-hmm.
So time heals.
I love that you mentioned that it took you a really long time to reclaim the jacket. It isn't a matter of days or months, it can be years. So I do appreciate just recognizing the process of recovery can take as long of a time as you need.
And it looks different for everyone, there might be people that are like, "I would have fucking burned that jacket."
Hmm. Hmm.
It was a nice jacket, and if nothing had ever happened to that jacket, I would have kept wearing that jacket the next day,
True.
whatever.
Hmm. Hmm.
But it had a charge. It was tainted with something that I was still processing through,
Hmm.
and so,
Hmm.
like, keeping it not as a reminder, but when I was ready, then
Hmm.
that was also a reminder to myself that, "Okay,
Hmm.
this happened, but that doesn't mean that this has to define the jacket,
Hmm.
take away the value of the jacket."
I was going to say, you're being so Asian about this jacket, the economic value of the jacket.
Just wear it again. Get over it.
No, I was like, why didn't you just throw it away? And then you're like, it was a nice jacket. I was like, oh, okay. I get it.
That's the only acceptable defense, otherwise it's, "Oh, get over it."
Yeah, just freaking burn it. No, I'm kidding. So you mentioned being afraid of seeing him, running into him at the grocery store because he was an actor. Did you see him in anything on TV or movies?
At the time of the date, his biggest acting credit was playing a waiter. If that was his biggest credit to date, that would have given me a lot of joy.
Right, right.
So no, I haven't seen him in anything that I've watched personally,
Uh-huh.
but I did look at his IMDb. He was on.
Did you watch the new?
No.
Did you know that he
I'd
was?
be so traumatized
I
if
know. I was gonna say.
it's crazy how a lot of people in my acting classes, classmates,
Mm-hmm.
acting teachers,
Mm-hmm.
I'll watch random shows, I'm like, "Oh, wait." It's so jarring. Like, my improv teacher, I just saw her on an episode of Shrinking yesterday.
Oh, cool.
That's LA for you. I was in a commercial class one time,
Uh,
and one of my classmates had a cameo with Kaylee Cuoco. Like,
oh, cool.
yeah, everyone's someone. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Andy, thank you so much for co-hosting this very wholesome, very light, invigorating topic.
I feel like both the episodes have been pretty heavy. Let's invite me to ask something that's like actually lighter, please.
Okay. I mean, I don't think 39-year-old was crazy. 38-year-old. Wow. I'm a natural healer. I forgot.
I told you after your 30s, like who even knows?
Okay, noted. You heard it here first. Andy is willing to do another episode, provided it is lighthearted. You are the one that people request.
I just ramble a shit ton, and then you edit it all, so it sounds good.
Can't wait for your family and friends to hear this. Maybe you can give them a content warning. Hey, well, it's in the episode title. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Relation Sis. I know that this was a really heavy topic, but it was an important conversation to have. Maybe after this episode, you take a walk, maybe take a shower, or maybe you're already on a walk listening to this episode. For more trans dating advice, please download my free ebook, The Trans Survival Guide to Online Dating, link in the description. This is Kara, and remember, somebody loves you. You. Bye.